Yeah, well, when I look at markets, like all investors are thinking different things, but you can kind of aggregate market sentiment just by looking at what's priced in and comparing what you think will happen relative to that. And so I think the biggest mistake priced into markets right now is the belief that we're going to return to essentially pricing similar to pre-COVID, that inflation is expected in markets to come down to a little under 3% over the next 18 months or so, and that that'll happen without much of a recession. So earnings are priced to continue to grow at a relatively normal rate from here. So I think that is probably the biggest mistake being priced in, which is things can revert normally, that we've had the drawdown and the worst is behind us. I think that's actually a mistake. We're still in the early phase of dealing with a radically different world than we had pre-COVID, a world that's deglobalizing rapidly, that's definancializing in certain ways, that is short, still doesn't have enough energy in a lot of places in the world for relative to economic conditions before, and we're working our way through that process. And so just like the phase, you have a 30-year phase from 1982 to 2008 of lower interest rates and higher private sector debt. You had a phase from 2008 basically up to COVID of the shift of private sector debt onto the government balance sheets through quantitative easing. And then you have fiscal policy and monetary policy come together to create an explosive mix of demand outstripping supply post-COVID that led into this inflationary environment, which is a challenge for policymakers where they no longer can get what they want, which is essentially low inflation and reasonable growth, and therefore they're constrained. And the markets aren't pricing for how constrained policymakers are, how actually impossible what markets expect, reasonably good earnings growth and low inflation to come in a combination are. So I'd say that's the biggest mistake.
Well, it's